Right, so welcome back to the channel, right? For this session, I'll be doing some forecast of stocks, cryptos, right? And the market in general. So I am going to cover a lot of markets, not just the indices futures, right? Because there's something that I want to highlight because of the current shift in the direction that we are having. So let's move on to the charts. Right, so I am going to start off with DXY. Right, for DXY, on the monthly chart, this is what we have. We are in accumulation. We are still within the range of the dealing range as well. This swing low to this swing high. I believe that we are probably going to seek the monthly rejection block at least before even considering any forms of reversals. All right, number one. Number two is that the closing of this month, as long as it's not below this level here, to me this level, it's a balanced price range. But then again, you have to consider the fact that we are in a consolidation profile, so fair value gaps do not often work in terms of their strength. They don't really work very well in accumulation profiles, so just have to keep in mind of that. Right, so I'm thinking that we are probably going to take out the previous month's low into about 25% of this swing lows wick before higher prices. So something like a seek and destroy condition for DXY. Okay, and this high here, I am thinking that we are most likely going to run out the highs. The reason is very simple here. We have the previous year's highs and lows. We are still within the previous year's range. I'm looking for one side of the range to be attacked before seeking the other side of the range. Okay, on the yearly chart, we have this swing high, so the wick is very important. Usually for wicks, I treat them as gaps, like how ICT would have, and I would look at 5 levels, right? The close, the low of the week, 75%, 50%, 25%, and the highest point of the week. So at this point in time, I believe that we can trade into 50% of the week before considering lower prices, because right here, down here, we have a fair value gap. And since the start of the year, we have been trading higher. As you can tell, we don't really have a discount wick for this candle right here as of now. Okay, so we are probably going to do something like this and then back into the yearly fair value gap. That is what I think. That is just my opinion. All right, so because I'm anticipating dollar index to perform in such a way, it is very reasonable for the assets that are denominated in USD to rally when dollar finds its top. Okay, with this, I've pretty much concluded the dollar index bias and direction for the next few weeks. Okay, just keep in mind these are the levels that I'm watching. Next, let's move on to indices, starting off with YM. If you take a look at YM, we have left this swing low here. On the monthly chart, it's a fair value gap. To me, this looks like it has not finished what it is supposed to do, and it's like a waste not to run into this resting sell side liquidity, right? So this is for YM. For the next few weeks, what am I expecting for YM? I would be watching the rejection block right here. I want to see if it can take out the highs. If it is unable to take out the highs, and then we start to trade lower, that would be a very good signal for shorts among the indices. But what I'm expecting is something like an SMT between next week's candle and the following week's candle. So the last 2 weeks of May, I am anticipating SMT to form between the three indices for the third and fourth week. This is the second week of May, and this is the first week of May. Okay, this is going according to day's quarterly theory. Therefore, I'm anticipating that for a retracement or a reversal trade. The other thing that I would like to point out is that this fair value gap here, we have utilized it to go higher. Therefore, when it trades lower and closing below this fair value gap, I'm going to be bearish, which means I'll be confirmed. The bearish price action or the bearish order flow would pretty much be confirmed once we have a candle closing, the weekly candle closing below this level here. That is for YM. Moving on to NQ. For NQ, it's slightly harder to define any significant PD arrays because the price action was quite sloppy on the way down. Alright, what I can see is that price utilized this new week opening gap to send it lower. At the same time, when it retraced back up into this new week opening gap, we have some form of resistance or like a rejection to it. Okay, so to me this is like a clear indication that if we stay above the new week opening gap, we are most likely to continue higher, and if we stay below, we are most likely going to reverse. This is the yearly open and this is the low of the year currently. I will be using these 2 points as projections for NQ. So in a case whereby if we close above 2.5, I will look for the fourth standard deviation. Okay, so it's pretty simple here. Let's take a look at ES next. So same thing with NQ. The price action wasn't that perfect, right? I mean, it wasn't that clean. But if you take a look at this swing high, We have utilized swing this wick here to send the price lower at this candle's high. And when price traded up, we have used this wick again to send the price higher. So this wick will be my confirmation for longs or shorts. Therefore, as long as we are above the wick, I believe we can go higher. But once we get a closing price below the wick again, then I will look for shorts. Okay. From the open price to the low of the year, we have the projections up till here, which is why you saw this reversal for ES, and NQ was 2.5. At this point in time, I think that we might want to reach into the 5th standard deviation for ES, and then I want to see if price wants to reverse. Okay, that is what I am looking for, but it might just run through all the targets if NQ is going to run for its -4 standard deviation. Alright, so this is for ES and NQ. As usual, I go week by week to see how it's going to play out for the future indices. Okay, let's move on to gold. For gold, if you take the look at the monthly chart, sorry, the 3-month chart, the start of this move was down here. So I anchored the fibs from the low to the last swing high that made the low, and I have these levels here. Because of this particular candle here that closed above 2.5, it pretty much confirms that price is running to 4, which is what we got right here. And usually that would be a stop hunt between 1 to 1.5, as you can see right here, before the run higher, if it is going to go higher. Alright, because if it's not going to go higher, we should have stopped and topped at 2.5, 2 to 2.5. That's how I'm using the projections here. Alright, so that's for gold. As far as I'm concerned, 5 is the maximum expansion that I'm expecting for this impulse here. Therefore, I think it still has some upside to go. I'm not going to call tops for gold because this is like a parabolic price action, and trying to short the tops, you would most probably end up taking losses like how you would have shorted Nvidia. Alright, so this is for gold. For oil, I am looking at this fair value gap. To me, oil is bullish because we have to count the sell stops, and we are most likely going to run for the highs. If you treat all of this as your accumulation, this right here is the manipulation. So for oil, I think we are going higher. As long as we stay within this fair value gap and not close below, we are on track to higher prices. Okay, that's how I view it, and I will stick to the bullish idea until I have a closing price below this level, which is at around 55. Okay, that's for gold. Very simple. I mean, that's for oil. Oil is very simple. Next up, I want to move into several charts, I mean stocks. Well, let's start off with Tesla. Let's see if I have anything for Tesla. Right, so Tesla is a little bit problematic, right? This gap, the consecutive fair value gaps with the volume imbalances, I'm adding them up together because they are chained together. There are no breaks between them. Okay, price utilized in this area here to send the price to all-time highs, taking out this swing high. That was the last stop hunt before lower prices. As far as I'm concerned, right now Tesla is trading within this range here. So to me, it's just like ping pong within the range. It's not going to go anywhere, right? This is Tesla for now. Just ping pong trading, range trading for Tesla. Right? So I'm not going to try to call trends up or down for Tesla yet. Right? It's just the range high, range low, back to range high, back to range low. So this is the kind of stock that you don't really want to put your money in the short term. Next up, let's take a look at NIO. It's taking a while to load. Alright, NIO. It's very interesting how we are having like a mini bull run for China stocks. Right, initially I was bearish. So right now, for NIO, the most bearish stock, one of the most bearish stock for or in the China market. Okay, I'm looking for this level here, as I have anticipated before. If you look for my older videos, I've basically told you where I would buy, and the targets would be here. Okay, that is for NIO. As long as we stay below here, this fair value gap, I do not see higher prices for NIO. That's number one. I mean, that's the only thing for NIO. Okay, because it's so bearish, I am not trying to call bottoms for NIO. For the other stocks, it's kind of interesting. I mean, other Chinese stocks, because they are rallying together with HSI. Okay, so for JD, we have tagged into the rejection block on the 3 months chart, and we have this price action here. Okay, how do I judge this? To me, as long as we are closing below 50% of the wick, I am bearish. For any bullish runs or extended rallies, I'll be looking for price to close above 0.5. If I don't get a closing above 0.5, I'm still going to lean bearish for the long term of this JD stock here. Alright. Next up, we have Tencent. It's one of the more bullish ones. Right, so we have this low taken out by this low within the fair value gap here. Okay, this fair value gap, it was utilized to send the price higher. So as long as we are above the fair value gap, these sell sides are going to be left intact. Okay, if we trade above this swing high and close above this fair value gap right here, we are going to attack the inefficiency up here, this fair value gap. It's very simple. Okay, for this fair value gap that I have annotated, this to me it's a inversion fair value gap. Alright, why is it so? Because it was supposed to be a bullish fair value gap, but price disrespected it and came back into, it disrespected it and then it traded lower. So to me, any price coming back into this level here is going to be rejected for the first time. I don't see price just trading through this fair value gap. Okay, so it's a little bit contradicting here, but I wouldn't say contradicting, but it's a little bit, we are pretty much capped on highs. So we could just do something like what Tesla did. Okay, this fair value gap with this fair value gap, we can just range around this area. Something like what Tesla is doing right now. This is totally possible. To see that run higher, we need a close above 50%. Okay, very simple. That is for Tencent. Next up we have Alibaba. Same thing here. This fair value gap is like our classic resistance. Okay, it has tagged the 3-month rejection block, similar to the other Chinese stocks. As long as we are below this inversion fair value gap, I will be bearish, right? No bullish price actions until we can close above 50% of this inversion fair value gap. And what are the targets that you can look for? You can look for this high, and you can look for this inefficiency up here. Right? That is for Baba. So something like this, I would entertain the idea. But to me right now, because it hasn't reached that point yet, I'm going to lean on to this. Okay, so long term, I'm still pretty much bearish on Baba. C limited, no, nothing. Let's take a look at the HSI. I think that's pretty much the overall. I can't really find a level down here on the 3 months. 1 month. If you take a look at the inversion fair value gap right here, this inversion fair value gap was used to send the price higher, taking out all-time highs. Okay, the fact that this candle here refuses to close below and trade below this sell stops, it's problematic for those that are bearish. Okay, right now to me HSI looks like it wants to run the high, this high right here. And if you take a look at the big picture, we are overall in a consolidation. So I would use this swing low to this swing high. Running above this high would mean that we are trading back to 50% of this current dealing range. Initially it was this high. So what I am looking for, or what I think is going to happen, is just ranging around the equilibrium, like what we did right here. It's range around and pretty much trapped in range until something happens. Okay, but I think this is the main draw on liquidity, 50%. On the longer term, I still think that we are going to attack the lows here because we have taken out the highs and it wasn't able to continue higher. So that's an issue by itself. And the fact that we have traded from the highs back down into discount, right now we are sort of like staying below discount. So I wouldn't call for large expansion moves just yet with regards to Hang Seng Index. Okay, and we are basically just ranging around this level here, which is not something that you want to put your money in, I would say, because it's not trending. It's just short-term trades at best, in my opinion. Okay, so this is for Hang Seng Index. Let's take a look at some of the let's take a look at Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, I think this high here is next, judging from the reaction of this fair value gap. Okay, this is a monthly chart. As long as we can close above 50% of this down close candle, I think the swing high here is not an issue, right? And how far can Bitcoin actually go? Let's take a look. Right, so maybe just a run above these highs and reverse. That is what I think, because of Ethereum. If you look at Ethereum, it's looking very weak, and I don't think it's going to clear this high. So that is very problematic. When you have SMT between Ethereum and Bitcoin, it's similar to the Dow theory. Alright, so looking at the strength of the fair value gap, this is not indication of strength. Usually you don't even want to see 50% to be violated all the way through at such a level here. It's almost touching 75%. That is not something you want to see. The most bullish scenario would be taking out the highs and doesn't even reach into 0.25. Okay, 0.25 is moderate, something that you should expect if you're looking for higher prices, but Ethereum just went through it. 50% is sort of like average, right? So if you're in trade or you're looking for a nice A+ setup, when it triggers you something like this, you can use this grading to measure the strength of the move. Right, so A+ would be 0, A would be 25%, B would be 50%, right? Usually 50%, it's not like it's going to fail, but more often than not it's going to give you a certain run. Okay, You don't really want to see 75% if you're bullish, unless there's news manipulation. That is possible for 75%, but the full closing or the full closure of this fair value gap here, that's not something that you want to see if you're expecting higher prices in this scenario here. Okay, so that's something that you can look and backtest or tape read during live sessions on the lower time frames. It pretty much works the same even on the lower time frames, right? So yep, as long as Ethereum is not clearing this high, I cannot be bullish on crypto. On the other hand, if you take a look at the all-time highs, Ethereum wasn't able to clear it, while the Bitcoin is making higher highs. So that to me is like an indication that maybe, just maybe, price might want to reverse. Okay, I think I've pretty much covered most that I want to cover. Let's double check. Let's take a look at some of the Singapore stocks. Alright, I think I'll just cover one last stock here. GME, GameStop. I saw that we have quite a lot of news recently because of this spike, probably. Right. So what are the levels for GameStop? On the yearly, this is a fair value gap. We have taken out this lows here, and this is the fair value gap that is placed above these highs. If you're bullish, you want to see price respect this fair value gap. You can use the theory that I have just went through with you on Ethereum for GameStop as well. Okay. Now, because we have tagged into 0.5, I think that it's possible for us to reach into 25. Okay. On the lower time frames, why would I say so? Because if you look at the 3-month chart, we have a inversion fair value gap right here, and it's overlapping the 25%. Right, this inversion fair value gap. Personally, I'm not going to use this as the breaker because it's consecutive up close candles all the way. So if you want to use it as a breaker, you need to highlight the entire thing, which I think it's quite a large range for a breaker. Okay, so I'm trying to refine my key levels here. So to me, this is one of the more better PD array that I will use. On the monthly chart, we have a fair value gap that we just missed by a little bit, and it lines up nicely with the inversion fair value gap. Okay, so I think that we are going to come back down here one more time. And do we trade higher after coming back down? I'm not too sure. So we just have to see and watch. On the daily chart, what I have annotated is this. If you take a look at these candles here, it's very hard to gauge. To me, this is like an island candle if you just look at the bodies, okay? And this by itself, I think it's to me, it looks like a reversal indication. the other indication is that we have closed below 50% of, we are trading all the way down into 50% of this gap here. If you look to the left, the high that made the low was this high here. Okay, this relative equal highs. This candle was utilized to take out this high. So this gap right here is very significant. And we are coming back all the way down here. So to me, I think what price is going to do next week is alright, so what I'm anticipating is price coming back up into this level here and drop. Now this is just pure speculation. I have no clue how this stock works. I just took a look at it because apparently it's everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Okay, so to me, this is what I think it's going to do. And let's see if it plays out as I have anticipated, right? If it doesn't play out, it's fine. If it plays out, it's fine. I don't hold anything onto this. I'm not attaching myself onto this idea here. Okay, it's just like a fun thing to do, right? And that's it for this session here. I hope you enjoyed it. If you find any value or insights from this session, do leave me a like, right? And if you have any questions or feedbacks, do leave them in the comments section down below. Okay, so thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you again.